Ladies and gentlemen, what is up? How's it going? My name is Blitzwinger, and this is going to be the massive news update for LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. So I have scoured the internet looking for interviews, looking for impressions, hands-on impressions with the game, and just basically trying to gather as much info on the game as possible to give you guys a little bit of an update, because it definitely has felt like we haven't seen much. We've seen, of course, the reveal, and then after that, we saw the trailer at the Game Awards, which was very cool as well, teasing a bunch of stuff for the Rise of the Skywalker content. Neat, but again, that was a relatively short trailer. So since then, it's been kind of hush-hush. However, if you really start digging into the news, you realize that there has actually been quite a bit about the game that has been revealed. So we're going to discuss all of that here today. Of course, guys, don't forget to support the video by hitting that thumbs up button down below. Thank you guys so very much for the support. It really does mean a lot to me. Thank you for taking the time to show that support. Now, with that in mind, there's probably going to be some details here that you know of. Hopefully, there's going to be many pieces of information that you do not know of, because there really is a ton to discuss. So let's kick things off with some of the stuff that maybe, just maybe, you are already aware of. And at the end, also, we have some rumors to discuss also. So first and foremost, this game is indeed being built in a brand new game engine, and there's going to be a bunch of new tech utilized to assemble this game, which means that hopefully this is going to be kind of the first big step forward in the LEGO game genre. Again, at this point, it really has become its own genre. It's a action-adventure, open-world game series that we have come to expect to be of a certain quality level. And at the same time, I definitely understand and agree with many people that, hey, you could make the argument that the last few LEGO games didn't really, take massive leaps forward or steps forward. I would probably argue against that in some areas and aspects of those games. Like, some of the character model designs have gotten way, way, way better. Some of the particle effects around like blasts and things like that have gotten way better and more detailed. And then I would argue that something like LEGO DC Supervillains introduced by far the best customization engine that we have seen in any LEGO game. And I would probably put it up there against many customization modes in all video games, period, because of how extensive and vast it really is. Now, with that in mind, that means that, of course, this new tech and new game engine hopefully will allow for an even greater improvement in how the game looks, how the game runs, and some of the abilities and variables that will be available in the game. So hopefully that basically means that we're in for an absolutely awesome new experience that feels very distinct and a very positive step forward in this genre. Now, with that in mind, I also want to go on ahead and discuss some of the other things that you might have been aware of. Obviously, the game will go on ahead and showcase all 9 of the episodes. So you're going to have all 9 of the Skywalker films included in this. So within those 9 films, or within those, 9 films being represented, there will be 5 missions for each film. So that means that there's going to be 45 missions, story quests, across the game. So that's pretty significant, and obviously just that alone would make this the biggest LEGO game ever, just in the sheer amount of content that you get to play through. That sounds pretty ridiculously crazy, the fact that you would play through 45 missions. But the cool thing is that in this game, unlike previous Star Wars games, or heck, even previous LEGO games, you have the ability to go on ahead and play them in whatever order you want. So if you want, you could go on ahead and play the Force Awakens mission first, and then move on from the Force Awakens, like do a few missions for that, like two or three of the 5, and then you're like, hey, you know what, I'm bored of this, I'm gonna go do the Last Jedi missions, or I'm gonna go back and do the, I don't know, Return of the Jedi. Whichever one of the films, and you hope, whatever it is that you would like to tackle, you could tackle in whatever order you would like, which is super cool and super unique. It's definitely quite different. Now, the way that they're going to get around to actually allowing you to do this is because you're going to travel across different planets. So this is really, really quite exciting. So in order to reach these different levels, you would then be able to go on ahead and travel to the appropriate planet wherever that event takes place. So for example, just to clarify what I mean by this, you know how The Force Awakens begins with Rey and her scouring Jakku. So if you wanted to start the Force Awakens storyline, guess what? Where would the first mission be? Well, it would be on the planet of Jakku. So you would travel to the planet of Jakku, fly over there, land, and then explore that hub world where you would find that mission. The cool thing is that these planets are going to be actual little hub worlds. Now, again, we're not talking about something that's going to be very tiny, but I would not expect these hub worlds to be the size of, let's say, Manhattan in Lego Marvel Superheroes 1. I just can't see them being able to build this many planets, especially because I'll discuss how many planets have been confirmed and how many are rumored to be in the game. So there's a lot. I just can't imagine that they would be able to fit that much content into the game. So my guess is that they're probably going to be varied in size. So some planets are probably going to be quite extensively bigger than others and would probably have a lot more to do. So for example, if you were to take a planet like let's say if Takodana ends up being in the game, because it hasn't been confirmed to be in the game, but let's say if Takodana was in the game, the events that take place in Takodana are not massive and you don't spend a lot of time in the movies on the planet of Takodana. So I would not be surprised if, for example, a planet like that might have a much smaller hub world, but then maybe a planet of like, oh my gosh, like Dagobah or Bespin or Endor, those planets get a lot more attention. So maybe on those planets, there's a lot more to actually do because a lot more of the Star Wars films and the Star Wars story takes place on those planets. So that's really, really, really cool and exciting. Now, as far as how many of these planets will we get to explore, well, their rumor is that it's probably going to be around 20, maybe more. So that's insane. But 16 of them have already been confirmed, and they are Crate, Mustafar, Yavin 4, Hoth, Naboo, Tatooine, Coruscant, Geonosis, Utapo, Camino, Dagobah, Bespin, Endor, Starkiller Base, Cantonica, and Jakku. So that is 16 planets that are already to be confirmed in this game. That's insane and obviously quite exciting just in the sheer sense that there is a ton of content packed into this game, and that's just absolutely mind-bogglingly exciting because when you start thinking about 45 missions, 20 planets potentially to explore, that gets pretty bananas. Now, speaking of those planets, apparently those planets will also evolve throughout the story. So for example, like we had just used the example of Takodana, or let's say use Hoth, right? You might arrive at that planet at one point, and before you complete the storylines where the battle between the Empire and the Resistance takes place, it might be a little bit more like organized and less battle damage. But then afterwards, you might see some of the elements and some of the, I guess, effects of the different story that takes place. So that's very, very exciting and sounds pretty darn cool. Now, with that in mind, that's the details on the planets. Let's talk about what you're going to use to get to the planets, and that's vehicles. So the rumor is that the game is going to contain 150 different vehicles, which is, again, insane. That's going to be so many different ships and so many different vehicles to actually utilize in this game. So that is absolutely bananas. Now, within those vehicles, there is also going to be larger vehicles, and these larger vehicles are going to be accessible from the inside as well. So think of something like the Death Star, or think of something like the Millennium Falcon, for example. Not only will you be able to use it as a vehicle, but you'll be able to enter into the vehicle and explore it within. So there might be like a side quest inside or a collectible that you would collect, which would be very, very cool because it adds even more depth to the gameplay. And it's kind of like, as I'm saying all this, I'm sure that you're starting to realize maybe why we haven't been getting so many details for this game. It's just because it's giant. This game is going to be massive. It's going to be a ginormous, epic action adventure game, and I cannot wait to see this thing come out. Now, with that in mind, speaking of collectibles, the collectibles in this game have been renamed. So if you did not know, the gold bricks have been taken out and they will be replaced by something called Kyber crystals. I guess it makes sense. They're trying to theme it a little bit more for Star Wars. So it is definitely somewhat understandable that that is the route that they have chosen to go on ahead and take with this particular title. Now, with that in mind, as far as other collectibles, one of the other aspects in Star Wars and Lego games in general is, of course, the vast amount of characters that are in the game. So part of this is kind of a rumor. The rumor is that there's going to be 400 overall different minifigure designs in this game, meaning many of them obviously will be non-playable characters or NPCs, but out of the playable ones, the rumor is that the roster will be roughly around the 200 plus mark. So that's, again, a massive roster of characters, and it really just makes you think like, okay, through 9 films, imagine how many different characters they're going to be able to bring into this game, and how many even within those characters they might have different variations. Like they might do different versions of Han, different versions of Luke, different versions of Rey if you're more interested in the modern characters, or you can go to the prequels with Anakin. So you could see that this roster is probably going to be absolutely stacked. Now, what else have we not discussed before we get to the rumors? The vehicle side of things. There's also going to be vehicle missions called the Smuggler's Run, where basically you're going to be trying to get from one planet or another, and you're trying to, I guess, like smuggle some sort of an item without being defeated by the evil empire. So that means that there's going to be another like class or another type of missions. So that sounds pretty awesome. That sounds like, again, even more variety in gameplay, which sign me up, because one of the things that many people could point to is say, okay, well, the missions could feel redundant or repetitive and therefore not particularly enjoyable. By making them this varied, there's so much stuff, and we haven't even discussed all of it yet. It really gets you just excited thinking about how much variety this game really is going to offer, or at least we hope it will. Now, with that in mind, we have just one more piece of information to discuss before we get to the rumors for today, or I guess two, sorry. One, we need to go back a little bit to the new tech, and that is the fact that the camera system will be zoomed in. So they're going to pull the camera a little bit closer than usual as far as like our view of the characters, but it'll also be fully movable even within the levels. So that sounds pretty awesome, because I don't recall any game where it was fully movable. I remember in Lego Dimensions, I want to say in the hub world, it might have been movable fully, and in most Lego games, I think it is movable within the hub world for the most part, but then within the levels, it's usually kind of limited, and you can only kind of pivot the camera a little bit, like where it'll sort of like shake to whatever direction you push the right joystick. But here it sounds like you're going to be able to actually move the camera around, which sounds very interesting. So I'm looking forward to actually seeing the gameplay so we can get a better idea of what this actually means. The other thing is that obviously there's going to be voice acting in this game. It will be fully voice acted by LucasArts approved voice actors. So keep in mind that that means that it will obviously most likely not be re-recordings with the actual actors. So they might get imitation actors or actors who will try to imitate the actual portrayals of characters. That's my guess. That's why they probably use that language of like LucasArts approved. And then I did want to go on ahead and discuss the whole customization of Create a Bounty Hunter, because apparently there's going to be bounty hunter missions in the game that are going to be exclusive to the Create a Bounty Hunter feature, which sounds like probably the customization system. Hopefully it's going to be what we saw in Lego DC Supervillains, but even better with a little bit more variety. So we could create whatever character you want and then go and scour the galaxy and scour all those different planets that we mentioned before to complete a bunch of bounty hunter missions. I mean, that sounds absolutely ridiculously epic. Now, let's go on ahead and discuss the rumored content, because this is stuff that I've seen repeated several different times, but there was no place where I could actually like get some decent form of confirmation for it. So number one, there's 500, yes, you heard me correctly, 500 side quests in this game, which means that outside of the 45 main story quests, there will be 500 other missions to do. This will be obviously a combination of regular missions where you would maybe retrieve something or defeat someone. Also probably included within those 500 are the smuggler's bounty missions that we discussed before, as well as the bounty hunter missions that we discussed before. So, I mean, this is just insane. This game is probably going to be just tons and tons and tons of hours of gameplay. So that would be pretty bananas. The other element that has been rumored to be included is the whole Yoda death sound. There was that whole petition going around with, I think it had like 20, I want to say it was 20, maybe 21,000 signatures, or maybe 20,000 signatures the last time that I had seen it, where basically people were asking for TT to include that sound effect that at this point I guess is somewhat iconic for Lego Star Wars, for them to include it in the Skywalker Saga game. So who knows, maybe they will include that as like an Easter egg, or maybe that'll be like a red power brick that you'll unlock. That would be kind of a funny one to have. And then speaking of red power bricks, there has also been quite a push for TT Games to allow the option to actually turn on the grunts instead of voice acting. So who knows, maybe TT Games has said that they would look into it and would consider it possibly, but they never did confirm nor deny whether or not it would be in the game. We do know that voice acting is the way that they're going, and the way that what they've actually confirmed, like they said, hey, we're going to do voice acting. So the whole idea of going back and doing just the grunts is not confirmed, but I think that it would be really cool to see as, again, maybe a red power brick. Now, with that in mind, the other element that has been rumored with the popularity of The Mandalorian show, and of course the return of another season of Clone Wars, there's been also lots of rumors about those then being as possible DLC packs for the Skywalker Saga game. I think that would be really cool. I think that, I don't know how likely it is. I think Mandalorian is much more likely than Clone Wars to happen, just personally if I had to guess. But I think that if we had to predict what the DLC would be, I would probably guess that it would be the other films first before the TV shows. I think Mandalorian has a pretty good shot of being a DLC pack, but I think that the other films like Rogue One or Solo would probably be more likely to get some sort of a DLC pack with, again, maybe introducing other story quests that you can now go to on these different planets, or maybe even new planets. That would be kind of cool too. Vehicles, and of course minifigures. So the potential for this game is absolutely ridiculously massive. This is why we had to do the massive news update, because my gosh, as you can see, we've discussed a ton of stuff here today. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. I hope you learned something that you didn't know before this, starting this video for Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. Let me know what you're most stoked about. What is the one thing that maybe you would love to see or hear that will be in this game? Let me know down in the comment section below. And of course, like always, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't yet, turn on your notifications, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.